This video is a look at some of the concepts and the directions that I think the Detroit Lions could and possibly should take their offense. In Week 12 against the Giants, at home, an opportunity to get a 7th win of the season, but also moving forward for the rest of the 2025 year. Got to try to keep pace with the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers today, obviously. But my point in putting this video out, even on a Sunday morning, is I'm starting to look at the Detroit Lions defense as something we did not necessarily anticipate as fans or people like myself who try to analyze the game. And what I'm advocating for is a style of play by Detroit that some would perhaps require as more conservative, but as you'll see if you stick around for the film study portion here, it's not like Dan Campbell and John Morton and Jared Goff can't be creative, tricky, and still attack in attack mode by going to under center. I think I've got 9 plays queued up here to kind of talk about A, some of the things I think Detroit could focus on, ways to get certain guys to football, but B, things they could use to attack specifically against this Giants defense. In any case, we're kind of going back a little bit, and we're going to basically focus on under center play action, whereby Jared Goff is being afforded a little bit more time and the opportunity to make what some might classify as easy button throws, but I would really just try to offer to you that it's in rhythm and normal operation of the offense. Can also give your offensive line an opportunity to deal with high-level pass rushers like Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons moving forward. In any case, like I said, this is against the Browns at home. I think in Week 2, it's a clean, crisp operation of the offense, giving Goff, in this case with Amon-Ra St. Brown, the ability to know where he's going to go with the football and post-snap be able to confirm what the coverage is. It's not like you got any movement from these inside linebackers on this specific play. A couple of other iterations in this video, you'll see inside linebackers kind of step up a little bit more heavy, if you will, and go for the play fake. I think it allows the offensive line to operate in a little bit more of a predetermined fashion. We're going to move around here as far as the games that I show film of. I think that you don't have to use the run to set up the pass. It's possible that today Morton and Campbell utilized the pass to set up the run, and that's actually something I talked about in a film study video from a film study preview, from Saturday evening about this particular game. This is a 12 personnel group against the Bengals. You can be creative. It's not all either direct flow run action or run and boot in the opposite direction. I don't think that it's a singular attack if you go under center. This is, of course, a fake toss to Gibbs up into the boundary and then bringing the screen back to the field with the motion by St. Brown. It also hinges upon Sewell being healthy, this particular play, at least. Sewell being healthy enough to get out here in space and go get people. I don't think that he's been playing above 75 to 80% in terms of overall health in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm talking about Sewell. The whole offensive line is beat up. In my opinion, you can create horizontal conflict and also be a little bit tricky at times with your play calling, even if you're going under center. Still in the game against the Bengals on the road, a big win, obviously, earlier in the season. That seems like a long time ago at this point. It's another 12 personnel group. We know that when John Morton was calling plays, there were a heavy reliance on 12 personnel. It could be 11. It doesn't matter. It's about isolating players, finding matchups that you can win and creating those. In my opinion, out of a 12 personnel group, what they've done is they've gotten a certain defensive end to the field and the weak side defensive end or the rush, Trey Hendrickson, to the boundary. They knew that Cincinnati was not going to drop that defensive end Hendrickson in coverage. So when Gibbs comes through here as part of this, basically a high-low concept is what I would call it with St. Brown. St. Brown being the high portion of this conflict over top of the corner, while Gibbs releases out into the flats. I won't say that it's a quick completion out to Gibbs because there is a play action nature here, number one. Number two, Gibbs kind of stumbles a little bit, and I think that's what forces Goff to maybe hesitate or pump fake for a moment, as well as the defensive tackle who's getting pressure. My point here is you can present as simplistic when you try to analyze the plays here, but force the defense to cover not just vertically, but the entire horizontal width of the field. one play or idea that I'd like to see the Lions get back to or use at least once or twice a game is getting the running back out in the flats quickly. I found 3 other iterations of this one, but they were all out of shotgun. This is early in the game, attacking to the field with Gibbs. There's no play action mesh here between the quarterback and the running back. Inside linebackers kind of apexed out, and so maybe Goff and the Lions had an idea that he was going to blitz. He does, and no one, not the outside linebacker or anyone, really deals with Gibbs out in space. You get him an opportunity. I'm talking about this outside linebacker possibly peeling out and redirecting Gibbs. Increasingly, NFL teams do not seem interested in doing that at all. You know, they're trying to get to the quarterback fine, getting rid of the ball quickly, whether it's out in the flats or, you know, design stuff to the running backs, especially like Gibbs, when he can make people miss like this, in my opinion, can safeguard the offensive line play and get and still preserve the ability to make big plays, explosives, if you will, but also prevent some of the bad ones. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Obviously, getting the ball out to Gibbs, or Montgomery for that matter, in space gives them an opportunity to make people miss and generate a big play. Two of the last plays have been somewhat anomalous. You have the flip to Gibbs in the flats on the previous snap against the Bucs. And then 3 plays ago, you have the fake toss and then the screen to St. Brown against the Bengals. This one, of course, falls under this umbrella. You can be creative, tricky, and force the defense to defend things that are somewhat irregular. Now, how you can get this done now without Laporta is obviously a challenge, because you go 12 personnel. Who is the second tight end? I would anticipate to see more jumbo 12 or even jumbo 11 at times, with Skipper as the 6th offensive lineman on the field. In recent games, particularly against the Eagles and I think the Vikings, offensive line health at times pushed Skipper onto the field. In any case, this is obviously the toss pass that there's still a small margin for error here, in my opinion. As far as Goff receiving the throw back from Montgomery, I do really like this because it's using the personnel that you have actually on your roster. Number one, Sewell's athleticism to get out in front and help out with the edge defender, essentially secure or safeguard Montgomery's ability to throw. And then Montgomery's background as, I believe, a high school quarterback. A lot of conflict here put on Marlon Humphrey, who sees the ball tossed initially and then now sees the running back check up and to throw. You got 2 routes. Goff throws this one in between 2 defenders to St. Brown. It's a great throw, in my opinion. I'll give you the end zone angle so you can see it yourself, because he's throwing this outside of Roquan Smith, but in front of or underneath of Marlon Humphrey, such that he doesn't get St. Brown hurt on the play. Earlier in the year, it seemed like Morton had a great idea on how to attack base defenses. You don't have to be in 12 personnel or jumbo 12 to go under center. You can certainly do it out of 11. I've actually shown you one of those plays earlier in this video. Laporta's gone, no longer available for 2025, obviously. I love this throw because of the design nature of it, and Goff knows it's slow developing. We had a toss and then a throw back to the quarterback. And the window he's throwing this to St. Brown, I would guess that in some of the other iterations of practicing this, the corner went with this route here. It was Laporta releasing from the left-hand side of the formation. Typically, corners as on the backside of what, a 3-by-1 formation will also oftentimes be in man. So my guess is this was designed to maybe prey on that, and Humphrey wouldn't be in this window that he possibly is. I think Goff did not underthrow that. He threw that exactly where he wanted to, in my opinion, outside of the inside linebacker, Roquan Smith, but underneath of Humphrey, if you will, to keep St. Brown safe from accepting a big hit. Clearly the play of the game from their win over the Ravens was an under-center play action to St. Brown that, like I said earlier, seems a long time ago at this point. But you can really set things up, in my opinion, and then elongate the conflict for inside linebackers from under center. So many teams at the NFL and high-level college football are accustomed to seeing quarterbacks' feet in the shotgun and a running back set to one side or the other, or perhaps sometimes a pistol alignment. Not being able to see the football, in my opinion, can create some indecision in a lot of these second-level players. Yes, even the best players in the world, like the NFL guys. In this case, they've created tremendous conflict by running the same setup, short motion, and then insert with St. Brown run throughout the game. And on a critical fourth down, rather than handing the ball back to the Ravens, they set this play up, in my opinion, and created a predictable scenario for Jared Goff, or at least one that they had a pretty good idea of what was going to occur. Maybe you've got a second option here for Williams, or as the way you draw it up. That route by Williams obviously doesn't present one at all. Finally, in terms of the specific matchup here against the Giants, one thing I would suggest doing is identifying where Burns is. Throughout his career, fantastic football player, over 60 sacks in his career, and he's only 27 years old. He's a get-up-the-field guy on run concepts away from him often, and it's not just basing that on 2025 film. I'm not criticizing him. I would love to have him on my football team. But in any case, you can see what's happening here with this defensive end for the Bucs. It's a run concept away from him. We're talking about this defender right here. Run action by the running back, and then he's going to wind this back intentionally, and he ends up basically being behind a wall of blockers. They've created a real one-on-one between Gibbs and Zion McCollum. Now whether he should bounce it outside or not or whatever, I don't care. My point is, it's a designed wind back with the potential of a quarterback booting straight back or possibly moving in this direction on a boot concept to his side. So when I say his, we're talking about number 5 basically being Brian Burns in this scenario, and a tight end winding it back to kick him out. I would say I would look for this out of like a jumbo personnel group where you get run action away from Burns that kind of winds back with a tight end, coming back across the heels of the offensive line, or lined up in the backfield like Brock Wright was. The point for me is, I feel like, in my mind, the under center game, along with certain personnel groups, whether it's 12 or 11, can give Dan Campbell and John Morton a little bit more predictability on where certain players are going to be, and then having plays installed to attack those guys specifically. Finally, even last week against the Eagles, at a time when the offense was struggling, they struggled throughout, you have some under center examples. I have 2 other ones that I'm not going to show you. I'll just give you the completion of St. Brown and then the touchdown to Jamison Williams. So the conflict is not just created from a run-pass standpoint, but it can also be forcing players to run all the way across the field and defend some of your best guys, whether it's Jamison Williams or Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is basically a clear-out route by Williams at the bottom side of the screen, trying to occupy the boundary side corner, in this case, Quinyon Mitchell. And then St. Brown motioning short, somewhat similar to the short motion, inserting in the C gap. That's inside of the gap that where Dan Skipper is aligned. And you can see 2 Eagles players run into each other, kind of freeze St. Brown up, as well as this safety who's pulled by the run action, the play fake, to Jahmyr Gibbs. Compare this to the lack of space and time that Goff had in the shotgun repeatedly last week. The Eagles are a specific opponent, very different from the Giants, obviously. So I get to cherry pick the plays that I show you. I understand. What I'm operating from is my opinion based upon the film that I have watched of the Lions throughout the season, how Philadelphia was able to deal with them. Am I saying they were in the shotgun too much last week? Yes. Finally, the touchdown to Jamison Williams, again, is under center. This is after 2 failed fourth downs, but it's a play action on 1st and 10, and I think that's important. It might be something that we need to see more often moving forward. 11 personnel group under center. You got play action with Gibbs down into the boundary. Motion by St. Brown to the field to basically determine the coverage and figure out what you're going to get. And so what I'm saying is, Goff sees Cooper DeJean go with St. Brown now. It's not like, hey, he can't figure out the coverage while his back is turned. He can figure out the coverage pre-snap or before he even snaps the ball based upon the motion, matching motion or not by the defense. In this case, Jamison Williams running a deep over concept, number 1. I would say somewhat of an easy throw, if you will, from Goff, but something to mention, whether even though it's out of 11 personnel or whether it's 12 or whatever, You can have a tight end work across the heels of the offensive lineman, help with the pass pro. These, to me, looking back on that Eagles game, look like opportunities to maybe go 11 personnel and throw the football. So what I mean by that is one receiver, Raymond, and then St. Brown and Jamison Williams use the play action and a tight end, or in the case of Dan Skipper, a jumbo tight end, to help afford Goff more protection than you're getting in typical shotgun alignments. And when I say typical, I mean that quite intentionally. There's a real dynamic by which defenders at the second and the third level are staring at quarterbacks in the shotgun, and in some cases being manipulated by them when the ball is under center. And you have this elongation of the conflict, whether it's horizontal or just direct flow. Direct flow meaning downhill, generally inside, from C-gap to C-gap. Inside linebackers and guys at the second and other guys at the second and third level don't see the football, so they have to just read their keys and be responsible. I feel like Detroit may want to recommit to that style of play. It's not that you can't be creative or unpredictable while doing so. And the reason I'm advocating for this is you can create two pathways to victory or two possible outcomes with this approach. And this is a somewhat generic explanation or description, but it's based out of how well Detroit's defense is performing at this time. So let's do scenario number one. Things work out great offensively, going under center a large majority of the time. And I'm not just talking about this week against the Giants, the rest of the way. Rest of the regular season in the playoffs. You get things done consistently in the run game. Create some big plays, whether it's Gibbs and Montgomery on the ground or the pass game with St. Brown, Williams, Raymond, etc. Possibility number two. Those things do not occur in a particular game. But the defense continues to play at this rate. You don't need to take as many chances to win, I'm offering, if Kelvin Shepherd's side, if this is who they are. Defensively in the last 4 weeks, their TOR metric allowed from a 0 to 100 score averaged out has been a 29. For the season, it's a 46. We know that 2 of those last 4 games, there's been significant attrition in the secondary or the DBs that are available for Shepard and those guys to use. DJ Reed is going to return as I record this. At some point, we have to anticipate that Kirby Joseph will as well. He's a force multiplier. My point is, moving forward, I wonder if the pressure that Goff, St. Brown, John Morton, Dan Campbell, and all of those guys have put on themselves to score points, score quickly, live up to the reputation that has been earned in the past 2 years plus, rightfully so. The production, the efficiency, Goff stats, everybody's stats, amazing. And you want to recreate that in 2025 for a lot of reasons. So you can win games, but also so you can match what Ben Johnson was able to put up. My overall point is, in the end, if the defense plays like this, who cares if you win 17-14 or if you win 37-24? I don't think there's going to be many 37-24 games the rest of the way. I could be wrong. We could see one today against the Giants. Long term, 2025, in my opinion, you may have the type of defense now in Detroit that can carry you to victory even on days when the offense isn't able to dominate or generate 6 or 7 scoring drives over the course of a 60-minute game. In any case, I appreciate you guys checking out this entire video. If you stuck around this long, I don't normally get the opportunity to produce things on the weekend. I had a very blessed situation to be able to get this one out for you guys, put it out on a Sunday morning. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Increasingly, I wish I could get these previews out on Saturday mornings or even Friday, but it's just very difficult to do given what I do in a professional setting. But if you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you think other Lions fans would appreciate my thoughts leading up to the game, even though they're released late on Sunday morning, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.